Hello. Adjust this a little bit. Hello, nice to see you all. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Joey Yao. I am the director of the CLC Performing Arts Center and the coordinator for the Cultural Thursday program. I greatly appreciate all of you who took the time to come out today. I know the weather is getting nicer. It's almost balmy outside, so it's nice of you to join us inside. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank the faculty and staff at Central Lakes College for supporting this program, as well as all of you, of course, for supporting this by your attendance. If you have friends or family who you know would enjoy this program, but they aren't here today, we are broadcasting this on the CLC Broadcasting YouTube page, and a recording of it will be available as soon as the program is done. So you can direct people to go check us out on YouTube if you think that they would enjoy today's presentation, which they would. I'll get to that in a second. There will be time for questions after the presentation. I will have a microphone. If you have a question, if you could just raise your hand and give me a moment to get to you so that you can speak into the microphone. That makes sure that everyone on the recording or those listening on the live stream will be able to hear your question. I invite you also to join us on Thursday, April 2nd for our next Cultural Thursday program with CLC faculty member Gary Payne, who will be speaking on the topic of Argentina. So I hope that you all will come back and join us for that. It's now my pleasure to introduce our presenter today, Jan Kurtz, co-founder of the Cultural Thursday program, former beloved faculty member of the CLC community, and a tireless champion for travel, cultural connections, and empathy. It has been my pleasure to be guided by Jan as I took on the coordination of the Cultural Thursday program, and while it may seem a strange thing to say, given the differences in our height, she truly is someone that I look up to. Thank you for laughing at that. Now, please welcome to the stage, Jan Kurtz.
Oh, wait.
That's better.
Wow. I'll take that word beloved to the bank. Primero siempre empiezo en español y es un placer estar aquí con ustedes. Y bueno, gracias por haber venido. It's always a pleasure to be here. I just love coming back and seeing you. And for the most part, I'm still recognized, and then sometimes not so much. So, yeah. Cheerleader for, I guess, cultures and languages. And I also accept very much right now the word empathy. Share any empathy that you have. Yes? Hello? Yeah, that's the tall me speaking, okay? All right, thank you for coming. Today I want to present myself more as, I'm going to call it a guide. I am going to go over kind of a philosophy of what I do when I travel, and I am looking forward to having you travel along on several levels. One of them is many of you have traveled, and I don't know what age you were at when you started your travels, but over time with travel, because of the more you travel, the more you see, the more you learn, the more your travel changes, and what you are seeing changes. And not to mention technology changes. So I'm going to start out with just a short little read about the first time that I left my comfort zone at age, oh, if I tell you, then you'll figure out the math. Never mind. I'm just going to read off of the first book that I put out, which is all about Spanish and where Spanish and bilingualism has taken me from the very beginning of my high school days. So a very quick moment here. 1968. Oh, I tell you. I was 15, living in a Midwestern town of under 30,000. Being bilingual meant you could correctly pronounce tortilla, and being multicultural meant that you would eat one. That summer, I was en route to Mexico for a 3-week Spanish immersion program, unaware of the consequences. Instead of merely improving my vocabulary, I was catapulted into a lifetime of real Spanish-speaking people and the lives that they inhabited. So at age 15, I was leaving my comfort zone. I had no idea what I was getting into. And This trip then is going to take us to last October and how I have changed and how travel has changed. And I hope that you follow through on this journey in this 45 minutes or so together in your own minds. What did you see originally? What are you seeing now? With kind of the closure being, when you leave here today, you don't have to go to another country. Look around at who's sitting here. Look around at what we eat. Look at the tags on your clothing to see where they came from. And see how every day is an adventure, and discovering things can be new things right under your nose, and that every day, I think we're explorers. Every day we are exploring. And I'm going to blame this on somebody that just talked to me, but they said maybe I should explain my seeing your world through new eyes. Cataract surgery was Tuesday. Who knew that that was going to happen when I named this thing? So if I'm winky blinking at you, okay then, but no hugs till next time. Got to guard my right side. So let's see where we're going. Could it? What's happening? Do I have to get closer? Okay, so I got to eat this thing. I can't see where it is. Okay. Okay. Thank you, and just keep, all right, I'll just lean into it, I think they say. First off, there's that whole word of discovering and of being an explorer. And what has happened in our language is, first, I always like to have people really look at what your vocabulary means, because Columbus discovered America, not so much. Somebody was already there. There's a really cute song, but I will not sing it. And so is somebody a discoverer or an explorer? And just choosing the vocabulary. I feel like I've got back feed now. Anyway, so I used to think, because I've got Spanish as my major background, I always thought of Columbus, but when you get to Portugal, it's more of Vasco da Gama, and also, in this case, probably Magellan would be the big name, because he made it almost all the way around the world, but ran into some people that killed him. But his ship made it all the way around the world. And so during the 500th anniversary, the indigenous people of this land really brought up this vocabulary and tried to make an issue of it, and I think they did a good job, because the Americas were not discovered by any of the Spaniards nor any of the Portuguese. So Columbus here, this on the one side with Columbus, that is in Granada, and we have Vasco da Gama here, and that is in Lisbon. So a couple of just travel tips that I give. The trip that I took to Portugal was supposed to be to a whole lot of places with a couple of people and seeing old friends, and pretty much none of that turned out to happen. So as you go through your trips, you know, I always figure out, where do I want to go? Who do I want to travel with? Why do I want to be doing this thing? And then what do you need when you travel? And because of what I just said, flexibility is like the number one thing. You have to have a good attitude, because literally every day things were changing. Curiosity is something that is a must if you are going to travel. Patience, because the train might not ever be on time. Let me try something else.
You want to try that? Because this mic's getting
Okay, hello, is this on? Hello, hello, how's that? Well, I got one person waving. I got this going, más o menos, there's one there. Okay, I'll try to eat this then. Okay, what am I going to do with two hands? Okay, and then the funding. You got to know you have money. And one of the things that I do when I travel with friends is we have something called a fondo, which is a nice little purse. We all put money in it every day or every 2 days. So when we get a taxi, when we go out to eat, when we go to the museums, we just pull out the money we need instead of everybody counting their pennies, or in this case, their euros. And the only time that I really lose out big time is meals. Everybody eats more than I do, and they drink a lot of wine, and I don't. So we ended up with a second purse for wine on this trip. So we know where we're at. I flew into Madrid. We picked up my friend Maribel, who I've known for many years, and my friend Lois from college was my other companion. So we flew into Madrid, picked up Maribel, we flew to Porto, we took a train to Lisbon, and then we flew back to Madrid. And real quickly, who can see the third country on the Iberian Peninsula? Andorra, gracias. I wish I had a prize. And you see here in front of you, I don't like folding maps, so early on in the trip, I just bought a dish towel. And so we've got the dish towel here, and on your right side, you've got the whole of Portugal. And then some of the places that we went to, Porto is right there on the coast, and we did take some tours up to Bragas, and I can't pronounce any of the words, Guimarães, and we went down to Aveiro. And then when we got to Lisbon, we took some tours around the Lisbon area as well. So it was about 5 or 6 days in each location. So because everything pretty much changed, when I know what I'm doing, I research ahead of time. I want to know, you don't really want to go to the Louvre and find out when you got home that the Mona Lisa was on the second floor. So I really like to figure out what my plan is, what do I want to see, what are my interests, and some of these I knew, and most of this I learned along the way this time because, as I said, everything changed. I did not know that Portugal was Europe's oldest nation. I did not know about all this cork. I thought corks went in wine bottles, and what I have hanging up here in front is one of many thousands of purses that you could buy, but it's made of cork. You can get hats made of cork. You can get clothes made of cork. I'm not sure there's something that you can't get that they can make out of cork. Because of Harry Potter's fame and so forth, there's a bookstore that's in Porto, and everybody thinks that this particular Livraria Beltran was the, I guess, what they based this Harry Potter, I don't know enough about Harry Potter, but his great big place that they all meet for their, okay, who knows Harry Potter? Never mind, I'm not alone. Anyway, supposedly this was what was used to fashion some of the background for the Harry Potter movies. Come to find out that that's not the truth, and yet the lines outside of this oldest library were very long, and we decided we didn't need to go in. Fatima would have been a lovely thing to do, but I was traveling with Maribel, who is an avid atheist, and she would not hear of it. So I did not go to see the Virgin of Fatima. But we did do a pilgrimage because it was very important to make sure we were tasting some of the foods. And in the Lisbon area, there's a place called Belém, and they invented at some point these wonderful pastries made of special creams, and we did stand in line to get those. I've already mentioned that I'm not a wine drinker, nothing against it. I just fall asleep immediately and get a headache, one thing before the other. So we did not take tours to the wine country, but at any time you would want to do that, you just, at this point in time, you hop on the internet and they get anything from $37 tours to $700 tours, depending on if they throw in a river cruise. So if you like port wine and you want to do a lot of wine tasting, it is absolutely available. Piri piri sauce is something made with the chilies, lemon, and garlic. And this comes to Portugal because even though, and I'll speak for myself, I always think of Spain as being the big conquistador, and they got into Mexico and, they took over all this stuff, and they were the first people to be down in Florida. But boy, the Portuguese were busy. And their mainstay now, of course, would be Brazil. We think of Brazil. But a lot of things on what they call the Columbian exchange, because not only ideas went across the two continents, but a lot of cows and pigs and vegetables. And so what we're getting then on the Iberian Peninsula are a lot of new foods that had come to them from the Americas. And I just put down, and I caught myself too late, I put down major discoverer. What should that word be? Explorer. Okay, 10 points for everybody that got that one right. And Ferdinand Magellan, as I said, an interesting man. These people just went off. They got into these boats, and they just took off east to find west and west to find east. And for the most part, other than he didn't make it all the way home, but his ship and some of his shipmates did make it all the way around the world. And we have Good grief. I'm not used to all this talking. That was a lie. Portuñol, or I guess they pronounce it Portuñol, is what they call kind of our Tex-Mex. And so if you knew some Spanish and you were speaking with someone who knew some Portuguese, you pretty much could make yourself understood. And if you don't, yes, there's always English. But what I would suggest is just, I don't know, pantomime, draw a picture on a napkin. The main thing I would hope that you would not do is just go in a corner and hide. Get out there, figure out some way to meet the people. And I will say that that's the thing that I missed the most on this particular trip, because I'm used to staying with families. I'm used to having people from the area show me around. And this was a new place for Maribel as well, being a Spaniard. So we just got out the telephones. Hate to say, Google it. So, any hint that we're no longer in Brainerd? Good. Right away, I, as a teacher, wanted to be the guide. I wanted to give people opportunities to discover new things. So when you look at this, it's like, okay, you know, here we have all these lovely roofs. Yes, we have a river. In this case, this is going out into the ocean. The buildings, the architecture. And when I started traveling originally as the high schooler, oh my goodness, it was like every cathedral was just, my mouth was hanging open. There was all of this gold leaf, and there were all these big palaces, and these people used to wear these big gowns all over the place. And over the years, I discovered the history behind the gold. I discovered the history behind the kings. And you start adding extra information, and sometimes your mouth then hangs open for a completely different reason. My mouth hung open a lot in Oporto because it was hills. It was, every place was up, I think. And we are walkers. My friends and I walk. And we walk to the other side of the river, and now we can look over there. And we average 7 to 10 miles a day. Get really good walking shoes ahead of time. And once we got to this side, after pretty much a whole day of going with a guide, we did see that there was this lovely, about 4 or 5 story glass elevator. And for just a few euros, you could get a ride up. And that's the Rio Douro. One thing we have in common here, we don't think about it when you come home, but think about every time you cross the Mississippi River, other people around the world would be just amazed, because the Mississippi River is a place to see, and we just kind of ho-hum across it, and then we see that we're caught at the lights there down by, I don't know, Perkins or something, and hey, it's the Mississippi River. The way that you communicate is different. I'm calling up the 1950s in this picture. No, nobody answered. But the conch shell on the sidewalk there is seen all over, I would say all over Europe. This is a sign that it's one of the many, many paths where people used to pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela. You may or may not have heard of the movie The Way. I highly recommend it. But people walk and walk and walk, sometimes for only a couple days, sometimes for a couple of months. And since Maribel and Lois and I, at one time a few years ago, walked 4 days from a place in southern France down to Pamplona in Spain, every time we see the conch shell, we go over and we put our foot on it, just to reconnect with having walked part of the way. And the big change, not just from telephones on one side to iPhones on the other side, Maribel and Lois here, after they've had their wine, are looking at where are we going to go next? Can we, get something booked a day ahead of time? And it really worked well. Maribel, having lived in Madrid over 20 years ago, she gave up her car. What was the point? You can use the metro. Now you have Ubers. You can take a taxi, and with 3 people, you can probably do as well as a metro or a taxi. You figure out how many people, you do the math, and they just took care of me. And Lois here with a hat on, she just looked like she knew where she was going all the time. And here's the full reveal. She has a hearing aid. So Siri was talking in her ear and saying, in 200 feet, take a right. And she looked like she was a local. Highly recommend looking into tours. These tours with these two folk here were actually free. And you just tip at the end of them. You go to find a guide. You need to know your apps. And so because of Maribel, she could understand some English, but Lois and Maribel and I were all Spanish speakers. So we signed up for Spanish tours, which was a great way to continue to practice our Spanish and find out what the people maybe were saying about their own little stories there. And one of the stories was of a legend of a rooster. And can you see the rooster on my towel here? Well, one of the stories that they told us was that a long time ago, when another pilgrim was walking the way, he went through a city by the name of Barcelos, and he was accused of stealing something. He was taken in front of the judge, and the judge said he would have to be hanged. And the pilgrim said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. I have a sign for you. When you have your next feast, there will be a rooster. And the rooster, who is going to be on a platter roasted, mind you, keep that in mind, is going to jump up and it's going to crow, and that will be the sign that I am innocent. Okay then. I did not know this before I heard the guide. And the guide said, well, as luck would have it, the rooster crowed. It got up off the platter and it started to crow, and the judge jumped up and he ran to the gallows. But the guy was already had his neck in the noose, and when he went through, somebody didn't tie the knot very well. And he went right through. He was saved. The judge said, you can go free. And he did. And many years later, the pilgrim came back. I guess he carved or did something. He made a big rooster in that town. And now the rooster is the symbol for all of Portugal, and a sign that the Virgin Mary, along the Camino, had performed another miracle. So if you want a rooster, you can get some for your fridge, you can get a keychain, you can get a towel. The rooster is everywhere. The other thing with having a local guide is they not only have those local stories, but they have local humor. And I talk about the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of hearing and sight. You have to have a sense of humor, too. And the only part that's difficult is that a lot of jokes don't translate. So we'd be sitting there waiting and waiting, and he's telling a story, and he gets to the end, and we didn't get it. I am kind of a fan of taking pictures of important men with either, I don't know, not the rooster, but a paloma or a pigeon on their head, because they live out all eternity getting pooped on. But anyway, I learned about the first king, and we went to a place called Bragas. Why aren't you smiling more at that, Tracy? I don't know what you think Braga means, but in Spanish it means underwear. I don't know why. Anyway, this is the town of Bragas. So one day we went out of town for a full tour, and we got to go to the castle. And in Lisbon, we got to learn an awful lot about a great, well, with the earthquake of 1755. And I kind of catapult a moment here. How many times in history has the world ended as we've known it? I'm more, I guess, more aware of having taught about the Aztecs and when the Spanish showed up in Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City, how in the world that changed everything when the Spaniards showed up. And they brought their, well, we'll see in a minute here. Here's the kind of weaponry that these people took with them when they went to the Americas. So you've got the different swords, you've got, you know, the knights in shining armor, you've got the horses that they came on. And the Aztecs, when they first saw horses, thought that they were seeing gods because there were 4 legs on the bottom and there was a man's head on the top. And when they saw them from afar, the things that the human race has lived through when life has totally changed when, peoples do come together. On this day, we happened to arrive on Castle Day. And so lots of kids were being brought to the castle by their teachers. And it was sort of like a mini Ren Fest, only with real castles. And I am a fan of, going up there and seeing everything. And at the same time, because of the years of travel and the information that I have covered in, look at all the weaponry that was taken against other countries and how that came together. And my wish, which is never going to come true because it's past, what if Columbus and Magellan and these guys would have gone with a sense of curiosity? I just want to try the food. I wonder what kind of an instrument that is. Let's see if we can learn that dance. Well, they sort of went for conversion and gold and, it wasn't dancing. I added the one on the bottom here, that picture on the bottom, because that was a church that had been built in 1389 that was destroyed in the 1755 earthquake, and it is standing there today, and they have turned it into a museum. And just to give us an idea today how devastating. Lisbon was pretty much wiped off the face of the earth at that time. And that is something that did make it through with their construction and architecture. And that's the lead in, as I said. The churches and convents and chapels that you go in, gold, glory, converts. And I don't know if you can even tell it, but on the far right here, can you see lots and lots of pipes coming up? That's a pipe organ. And you're staring straight up the ceiling, and somebody got up there and painted that. And the amount of artwork, I'm very pulled between the history behind all of the gold that left the Americas to do all the decorating, with the amazing architecture, the amazing artwork, the music that has come out of Catholicism and religions. It's two sides of the same coin, I guess, but every church, even the most, I take that back. Some convents do not have all of this lovely gold leaf, but most of the churches you walk in and you just don't know where to look first. And I love this picture because my atheist friend in red seems to be kneeling in front of the altar. One of the things when you don't know where to look is to decide on just some details. And over the years, I have stopped taking quite so many pictures of, this is, the big photo op, this is the big place where something happened. But I look for details. So instead of being able to take in the entire front altar, for instance, here are some angels, little angels that are just all around the edges. And I don't know all the stories, but each one of these little cubicles was a full story out of the Bible. So for those people that really do know their biblical stories, you can go and relate to just going around to each one of these places and have that background given. But what I find more interesting is the woman walking to church. And this woman represents so many women. Many of the women still go every day. And that's what the church looks like on the outside. Very austere practically. And then you go in and see all of the gold. But I personally like the people. So I had to practice the new language, Portugal. And the only people I could practice with were the folks in the stores, the folks in the hotels, the taxi drivers, and you just have to laugh at yourself. You're not going to pronounce it right. You're going to have to point. You're going to have to just, that sense of humor, have a sense of humor. And one of the things that I've done over the years of travel is when I buy something, and I'm buying less and less, oh my gosh, buy stuff that you can eat and not dust, okay? But I will take a picture of the artisan. So in Lisbon here, we were spending the afternoon going along, it was an artisan market, blocks and blocks of little booths and shelves and so forth. And I just like this woman's art style. And we can see the sardines because you probably ought to be eating sardines. There's the wine. You probably ought to be drinking the wine. Up in the corner next to the wine, well, there's those lovely creamy pastries. So take a picture home. My grandchildren each have a cat. So I took home 2 cats. And I had the picture then taken with her because then I have the memory of the conversation she and I had while we were doing our transaction. I liked going into places, as in the bottom here, where they are making some croquetas. And I found out later that these are very well-known croquetas, and they're full of lots of fish. And instead of sitting down at an hour-and-a-half meal, which I have nothing against, but sometimes that you're just missing something in the street, I like to buy something in the street. You can carry it with you. You can go to a parkway maybe and have a picnic and just watch people and maybe pull yourself out a little bit from the tourism angle of it. And then, of course, I had to find something with a rooster on it. And just walking up and down the streets, and I'm saying up and up and up, and sometimes down. This woman was just out in front of a building, and I expect that she had a wonderful sewing machine, which you put in one of those, I don't know, some kind of a, well, the sewing machines can embroider for you these days. I don't know what kind of a deal they have, but she was just pushing these out, and for €1, she was selling these. And so I got about 5 or 6 of them and gave them all away. The beauty of buying is you can give it away and then tell somebody the story about the rooster and tell them that it's really good luck to have this towel. And I just like to look around. Not everything is, again, a tourism moment. We went in Lisbon to a beautiful, the Arboretum there, walked around. You could take all kinds of pictures of flowers if that's what you wanted. And no, this is not a pregnant man. This is a man in the garden with his little tiny baby in the front, and he's just walking slowly around the garden, enjoying the afternoon. And I just thought he was worthy to take home. Something that is a tourist thing is this giant rabbit, and it's all made out of garbage. And we're seeing more of that around the world now, but the garbage being, what can you do? This is a recycling moment. And notice that the turtles are trying to, I guess, go faster because now they are made out of Michelin tires. And just places that caught my eye. You can look some of these up. These tires here, you can look that up on Google. I don't know if it had a name or not, but there's a lot of street art. I thought it was kind of funny to have this sign where everybody was drinking wine. I've never made friends drinking milk. And in the lower left-hand side, the boat, that used to be the kind of boat that they used for fishermen, but now the tourists fill them up. And I suppose the fishermen are probably making more money charging per person for a boat ride. And over to the right here, this is just on a castle ground. This is a place where the kings used to just go to their grottos and walk around and mosey around and, I don't know, do what kings do. And art everywhere in the streets. This is not Day of the Dead over here. This is somebody evidently that waited a really long time to get served. Some of the streets are in the cemetery. The Lisbon Cemetery is a beautiful place to visit. Something that I do with every trip is I visit cemeteries and grocery stores. See how the people lived, what they ate, and how they died and treat their dead. And you might think that this is a building here with the garbage out front and so forth. This is a painting of a building. So that is all just street artwork in that yellow building. And one of my most fun finds, I didn't really know about Banksy. I don't know how I've lived this long without knowing him, but if you get tired, learn to rest, not to quit. So isn't Lois a fun person to take photos of? I said, scoot over there by this Banksy, and she did, and I think that's one of my favorites right there. And here are 2 other ones that I think speak to us. I took lots and lots of pictures in this museum, but these are the ones that I chose for today. Let that sink in. Okay, now. And then just to lighten up a little bit, on the way out of the museum, I'm out of bed and dressed. What more do you want? Tiles everywhere for the photographers. There's just, again, history. The Moorish had come in, and later on, after the earthquake, the Dutch came in with their blues and their whites. I love taking pictures of laundry on the balconies. Sometimes it's forbidden because the laundry on the balconies is supposed to be a bad look for an historic place, but you know, what are you going to do? So here's a moment I'm going to just finish off with a couple of things that I bring home because other people are doing something that might be a good idea. I don't live in an apartment, so I do still hang wash outside, but you can kind of see on the top picture there, the right, where Maribel hangs her clothing out of her bedroom window. And she insists on hanging out the laundry because if we didn't pin it up right, we'd have to go down 4 stories to get it. I also like the way that she dries her dishes. I don't know, I just maybe haven't been out in the world very much, but having the little drying thing right above the sink, you wash the dish, you put it up, it drips dry, you pick it out, put it on the table next time you need it, and simple thing. No batteries necessary, no electricity necessary. I really like going grocery shopping with her. Again, I've mentioned that she has not had a car in over 20 years. This is the way she goes grocery shopping. She gets to go down, you know, the first floor, you're on the street there, you take your little cart, you plug it in there, you take the key with you, you go grocery shopping, and you don't have a car park, you have a cart park. And I like to see, as I said, the ways that people eat and their grocery shopping. You put your oranges in the top and you just let them squeeze out all the juice. Yes, we get fish here. We can only have so many walleyes, I understand, but the fresh fish and the way that you can buy your ham, your jamon york, comes, you know, you go and you just take a couple of thin slices, take them home and make your tapas. Also, when you go into the vegetables, do you recognize all the vegetables or not? Learn a new word for a vegetable, and if you don't learn a new word, well, point. Again, I don't live in New York. They probably have these in New York, but you buy your bread whole, and up here in your the upper right-hand side, you just put them in this little machine, push the button, and it goes, and it goes slice, 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 and then it comes out the other side, and you just hold your little bag there, and all the bread sliced, you know, it goes into the little bag, and off you go. And I included Maribel's apartment here because we do have lots of space in all our houses. Yes, she is a single woman. She was in a very large place downtown that had to be sold when her parents died. But this is her entire dining room and kitchen. You can see way off to the left, you've got a little refrigerator. You do have a microwave, you've got an oven, and that wall has to be there because it kind of holds up the roof to that whole house. And then just one teeny tiny little counter and the table. And she's a great cook. Lots of good stuff comes out of that little kitchen. So back to the senses. What we have here is me. I think it's boxwood. I had to get close to smell it and find out. But if you're a photographer, then you also back up and put the picture of the castle with the flower gardens. Sometimes I just have a weird sense of humor. All of this water coming out of the nose, this was part of a beautiful cathedral area, and you went through all of the stations of the cross. Well, at this station of the cross, all of the water was coming out of the guy's nose. So I call this the runny nose Jesus. I don't think it's Jesus, but it's the runny nose fountain. And I couldn't help, and I'm sorry, this is not meant to be, a statement about fat and fit, but that guy was just standing there. He was begging to have his picture taken under this sign. And this is the look I like on the faces of travel. Sense of curiosity, sense of wonder. Both of my friends just wear the face on them that, what's the next best thing? Where are we going next? What are we going to find around the next corner? I tried. But this is my very best and the kind of final moment here. I really, really, really wanted to go to Spain for one big reason, and that's to see these two guys. Notice that they have been to Brainerd. They have stayed with families in Brainerd. This was back in, let's see, Manu, I think was it 19, I've got it up there, 1996. And Sarah came 2001. He wasn't here very long when we had the towers come down. Oh my gosh, think about what his parents were thinking. That was the year that here at the college we had our first Argentine exchange teacher. Wow. Looking back at our own country from somebody else's eyes. Sadly, because of the way things worked out, I only got 1 hour with these guys. They both drove from out of town into Madrid, saw me for an hour before taking off to a family birthday party. But that is the kind of thing that travel can do. Bringing those people into you, bringing that love that lasts forever in some cases. And I don't know when I'll get to see them again, but I hope that this radiates the relationship that we've been able to have over all these years. And Manu looked at it and said, look, there's even a light shining behind us on all of us in this particular situation. So what I'd like you to do for just a minute, and then I'll open it up to questions. I used to do this in class, and you don't have to do it in the moment, but now or when you get home, I really would like you to think about all the people, all the diversity. I personally never want to be invited to a party where all they're serving is craft dinner. I never want to go to a concert where they only know how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. I don't want to go to a woods where the only tree I'm going to see is a birch tree. I'm going to say the word diversity. If you will look at your clothes sometime this week, find out where they were made. When you look at your food today at lunchtime, what country did that maybe really come from? Because unless you're eating morel mushrooms and wild rice, it's probably not from around here very close. I would really like you to look at the people we have in this community and what everybody brings literally to the table. Because the biggest thing about travel is seeing something different, getting some new ideas, and bringing those eyes back home to see yourselves, maybe for the first time. My gosh, I'm crossing the Mississippi. Woo! Okay. So, and then finally, just cause a blatant ad. There I am. A lot of you have the book already. I do have a little sign up out there if you want to be on a free blog that I write about North and South every single month. On the 17th it comes out. It's a sign up sheet. There are books these books are at the library. These books are here at the store. The main thing I wanted to add with this is the money that goes from my sales of Northern Shores does go into a Spanish scholarship fund here at the college. And if you want to know more about that, please ask the people here so we can contribute to continue, travel and languages here as well at this particular institution. School of Learning institution sounds whatever. School of Learning. Amen. I'm a preacher's kid. So you got it? Okay. Questions? And Joey's got the mic back there. We got Lowell over there in the corner. Yes, I know your names and I know where you live. Some of you.
I'm curious about the reference to Portugal being the first nation in Europe. So could you say some more about that? I mean, who determines what's a nation and how does all that work? It's news to me.
Well, it was news to me.
Please say some more.
Yeah. Basically, when you go into information about Portugal, you're going to get, because there were tribes at the time, and there were, just places that had a count in charge of things. I don't know the definition of when the first nation or how they decided that, but evidently it was the first one recognized as a contiguous area that had a ruler. So that's kind of what my understanding was, which really surprised me because I thought for sure, you got Rome out there, you've got, gee whiz, a lot of places I thought were older. So let's Google those guys and make them honest. Okay.
Going to repeat that question for the recording?
Okay. The question is about what is, worn on the streets, what tourists, what would be the appropriate kind of clothing. number one, and it depends on as far as shorts and so forth, I would say no unless you're at the beaches. And neither Lisbon nor Porto would be considered necessarily beach places, although they had some. I basically look ahead and I look at pictures of people and say, okay, what are they wearing? And for the most part, just get yourself some really good comfortable shoes, have your layers, and anything to me, and this is my own personal, I try not to call a whole lot of attention to myself. And I've never been a fashion statement, so that's been pretty easy. But I always like to just say, you know, if something is very, you know, if it's revealing top, maybe not. You know, and even the crazy thing, I do not feel at all afraid of, you know, theft and different things. But I do make sure that I wear my purse across my shoulder, and there's a lot of neat things out there to buy to help you so that you can protect yourself that way. But I probably wouldn't wear something like this because somebody could, you know, but for the most part they don't. But it's a good question, and I just do a little study ahead. I look at pictures of the people in the streets. Oh, right behind you. Is that a question, Ann? Or are you just moving? Oh, she's just fixing her hair. Okay, over here? Or no? Okay. Yeah, Sarah?
When you go like that, where you get like a book and not read that.
Oh, to get this book?
Yeah.
Robert will be selling a couple of books. We brought a couple of us with for when you leave. But they're also, in fact, at the senior center they've got some now, and you can get them at the bookstore here. Cattails might not have Cattails has both the books right now. This, I think that probably The Crossing only has the book, the Heart of My Soul, and that is about legacy and leaving your land and leaving, you know, what's your legacy? So just a moment on that. When we do travel, we are kind of the example for everybody in the United States, according to, you know, like you just said, what do we wear? What are we, you know, what are we doing with our manners? How are we acting? And the second book here is more about family and legacy and what would you like to leave? And since nobody wants your china, you know, maybe you could leave some really good habits. But both of the books are available in town or online at my website. Thank you. I didn't even pay her to ask that. Whoa. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, we've got 1, 2 over here. Oh.
Where are you from?
Where am I from?
Yeah.
I was born in Illinois, raised in Wisconsin, and been here for more years than I can tell you. I came here to Brainerd in 1982.
82?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Don't even do the math. Okay, next. Oh, let's see. We got a couple over here yet. You'll have to tell us about time, Joy. I will stay till 1, but I realize people do have to go to classes in other places. Do you have a question?
Oh.
Oh, my home? South of town here in the woods. Ask Sarah. She's my neighbor. Yeah, Sarah's my neighbor.
How much difference is there between Portuguese and Espanol, Spanish?
You know, when you read it or when you look at the words, you can understand a lot. I can understand a lot more than when they actually speak. And this is not official, but I consider that Portuguese is Spanish spoken with a French accent. Now I'm in trouble. I couldn't get the nya kind of sounds going, and some of the sounds are just a little bit different. But with speaking with somebody else, what happens is it's like putting a puzzle together, and they might start a word, and then you kind of finish it, and you go, yeah, that's the direction we're going. But I never really could pronounce any. It was a lot of fun. It's a game. It's a game. But thanks for asking.
Jan,
Yes.
I spoke with you earlier last year, my wife and I celebrated our 50th anniversary. So we went to Lisbon. If she was Catholic, I'd ask the Pope to make her a saint, but.
Oh, nice try.
We went to Spain, Portugal, and Algiers, Morocco for 3 weeks. And what we found there is some of the best athletes in the world are flamenco dancers in Seville. My goodness. That 12-string guitar, he would just make their feet go quicker. And then in Lisbon, we did fado.
Mm-hmm.
They could be singing the phone book, but their expression, their love, their hate, their anger was, you couldn't understand the words, but you could feel it. And I want to just say about adversity and diversity, what makes a beautiful quilt sometimes is an old patch quilt. All the different pieces make it beautiful. So in our world, it's great to have diversity. So
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's a great thought to just spread out. And I want to, this is on this, in August, the Zarango Flamenco are going to be here with the festival. And they have been on the stage before, Susana de Palma, and Seville, Flamenco. Oh, and Carmen, they're also going to have the opera. Carmen is coming to town. Hello. Don't let anybody put down Brainerd. Okay. Yes.
Where to next?
Barcelona. Barcelona. I should. My family and I are planning a trip in June after school is out because I've got she'll be 17 then. Oh, my granddaughter will be 17 and my grandson will be by then 13. And so we will go there and visit. I don't know if anybody can remember Alberto Lopez, who was an Amity aide here back in 1999 or so. We've been in touch with Alberto, and so he's going to show us around a little bit, and we're looking now at, should we take some tours? And I'm trying to say, leave some time open to just bum around. Just find an open window or door and go in, but we'll see how that works. And my biggest, the biggest shock though, Susanna, is when you take yourself and then you times 5 to the airplane cost, the verbal cost, the museum, the food. But somebody said once, and it's true, you can't take it with you. Make memories. Make memories. Good ones, preferably. Good ones. So.
Thank you very much, everyone. Jan will be around for a bit. Let's give her a round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Enjoy your travels, just even home today, and go say hi to somebody you haven't met yet right here. Woo! Okay, bye. Thank you so much for coming.